Hello, good afternoon, welcome. It is Black and White Cookie Day, so we're celebrating all things New York, and there's nothing more quintessentially New York, maybe other than pizza, than black and white cookies. You will find them in every deli, every bakery, every place has black and white cookies. They range from like this size to like this size, and they're just delicious. I think everyone loves them because you get to choose. Do you want the vanilla side? Do you want the chocolate side? Do you want to mix it up and have part chocolate, part vanilla? They're just so good. And so you'll see they're easy to make. It's not very hard. It's more of like a cake kind of style cookie, and then you put icing on the outside. So that's what we have for this. And so we'll walk through the recipe and we'll make some, and then from there, then we'll make the icing that goes on it, and then I'll show you how to ice them. Super simple and easy to do, and an easy recipe with ingredients that chances are you have at home. I know the recipe calls for cake flour, which may be hard to find, but if you don't have cake flour, you can substitute all-purpose flour in this recipe and it'll be fine. It'll just be a little heavier, but no worries. They will still be absolutely delicious. And I'm betting there's a lot of people that make them with just all-purpose flour anyway. So no problem with doing the all-purpose flour. So there is a recipe out there. You kind of have to search. In one area, we'll fix this in just a second. I just saw this just a minute ago. Randy doesn't even know this, that it still says that the recipe is coming. But the recipe is out there. And I just made the icing one, and I think it's a little thinner than what I want, so we're gonna play with that part of it too. So once we get to that part, we'll play with it, and I'll show you the consistency that we're going for, and that's really what it comes down to. So in the end, you're gonna have some beautiful black and white cookies. I have some that are already baked and ready to go, so some cookies that are ready to ice. And what's different with these, you actually ice the back of the cookie, and then you leave the rounded part, the pretty part is just plain. So you're icing the very back of the cookie. So just kind of a different thing with all of these. So glad to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us. Today is Wednesday. It was busy today. We had a line out the door for a while. So I think, we used to have our busiest day was Thursday, and so Wednesday is our new Thursday, and so people are planning all the things that they're making for the rest of the week, and so that's fine. But it really is heartening to know that people are baking and doing things at home, and baking for others as well. So not just for friends and family, but for their business, and so that's great. And so we're very happy to be able to be here and be a supplier for the things that people need. So we still have flour, we have sugar, we have butter, we have eggs, we have what else? Yeast, whole wheat flour. So on the flours, we have all-purpose flour, we have cake flour, we have bread flour, and we have whole wheat flour. So we have all of them taken care of for you. And then in addition, of course, we have vanillas, and we have flavors, and we have all the sprinkles you might think that you need, and so many other things, as well as packaging. So boards and boxes and things that you might need if you're packaging things for a small business, or you're doing kits or doing different things for your cottage industry business as well. So glad to have everyone here. Thank you so much for joining in. Today is the black and white cookies, like I talked about, and then on Friday is going to be English muffins. So we'll get you prepped for the weekend with some really thick English muffins for the weekend. I know I'm looking forward to breakfast on Saturday with some delicious English muffins. So that is our plan. And then next week we'll come up with the plan for next week. I don't think we have a set plan yet, but we'll come up with a plan, and we'll get everything listed and get that out there for you. I did have a suggestion for doing succulents for cupcakes, and we'll definitely do that. That'll be one of the days for sure. And so we'll do kind of a combination of buttercream and fondant techniques for succulents, and be able to do that. So that'll be one of the days. That might be Wednesday. So that'll be our decorating day. Mondays and Fridays will be kind of our baking days. So I think that's probably how it'll work. So that is our plan. Today, what we're making is black and white cookies. So this recipe is a very simple creaming recipe. So you cream the butter and the sugar together. The important part about the butter, it really doesn't make that much of a difference whether it's salted or unsalted in this recipe. I don't think it would make any real difference in it. But what does make a difference is having it at room temperature. That makes a huge difference, because what you want to have happen when you're creaming that butter and sugar together, you're basically wanting the butter to encapsulate every little grain of the sugar. And if you don't have your butter at room temperature, that's not gonna happen. They're gonna stay kind of separate and not really together. And so that's why having the butter at room temperature is really important. You can actually take your butter out. Like if you knew you were going to be making these cookies, first thing in the morning, take it out the night before. It's okay. Your grandmother left butter out on the counter all the time and everyone was fine. So it's okay to do that. And that way it is totally at room temperature. There's not really a great way of heating butter and softening butter in the microwave. That's not the way to do it. If you find yourself pulling out this recipe and you're like, I want to make them really soon and my butter's not softened, then what you can do is cut your butter up into small pieces like you'll see mine is, because that's what happened to me this morning. I came in saying, all right, I want to make a batch, but I didn't have any softened butter, so I had to cut it into small pieces. The smaller the pieces, the faster it will soften and come to room temperature. So just cut it into small pieces, leave it to the side for a few minutes, and then you'll be ready to go. So give us a second to reposition and to point this down, and then let's get started with these recipes. Thanks for joining us.
And Magda did post the recipe in the comments.
Oh, okay. The recipe is posted in the comments section. So you can look at that and find the recipe that way. All right. Let's see how that looks. That looks good. All right. So the first thing I'm going to do, you can see how my butter is in small pieces. So it's in small pieces like that. It's been sitting out now for quite a while since we got here, 8:30ish. And so now it's totally room temperature, but it does soften much faster to go to room temperature when it's in small pieces like that. So the first thing I want to do is I want to weigh out my flour. And so I'm using cake flour for it because I have cake flour. If I didn't have cake flour, just substitute all-purpose flour and that would absolutely be fine. And so I'm going to weigh this. This is going to be 4 cups, which is going to be 480 grams. And so I know I need to update this recipe because, oh my gosh, number one, that's our really, really old logo here and old name even. And then I don't even have any weights, and I know it's all backwards on your screens, but I don't even have any weights on here, so I can tell that I made this recipe up so long ago. So I will update all of that for you. So there we go. I'm just going to turn this on. I'm going to hit tare and make sure that my unit is on grams, and then it's going to be 480 grams of the cake flour. So cake flour is just a lighter wheat flour, plus it's milled more, so it's a little bit finer. So that's what gives that smaller crumb to cakes. But you can, in this instance, with it being a cookie, you can go ahead and substitute all-purpose flour. right, so if you've never had a black and white cookie, let me kind of describe them. So they are very cake-like, kind of like, think of like a whoopie pie. And so they're very, very cake-like and soft. And so you put the icing on the bottom side. And see, when I'm going to break this one apart so that you can see, but you see how nice and soft this is. This is very, very cake-like. And then once they sit out for a little bit, I think they're better tomorrow, honestly, than making them today and fresh out of the oven. So you might want to wait to eat them tomorrow, or save at least one for tomorrow. And they kind of dry out just a little bit, but the icing keeps them still nice and soft on the inside. And so it's just the perfect kind of cookie. These are the ones that you'll find in New York, are usually like wrapped in cellophane, and I don't know how long they sit on their shelves, in delis, probably a long time that they get them wholesale from a bakery and keep them for a long time. They will save for a nice long time, so that's a nice thing with that too. All right, with my flour, I'm just gonna put that to the side, and I have everything else ready to go for us. So I have my 2 cups of sugar in here, and this is just standard granulated sugar, so regular granulated sugar. And then I have my butter that's gonna go in here. And see how nice and soft that butter is? So that's what you're looking for, that nice soft consistency for it. All right, and then I have some salt that's going in and baking powder that's going in. And then I'm gonna use a hand mixer. I could just as easily, especially since my butter is so soft, I could do this by hand, but a hand mixer makes this a little bit faster, a little bit easier. If you don't have a hand mixer, a KitchenAid style mixer would be perfect for this, or you can definitely just do this by hand. So these are like the crazy, crazy powerful mixers. I'm only gonna turn it on one. And I have to hold it. I would want to cough right now, but I don't want to. That's not a good thing to do these days. With the cloud of sugar that just came up. All right, so see how this comes together so nicely. I just want to do it just a little bit more. Get it all the way together. There we go. So I want to keep going till it's a little bit lighter. It'll all come together, be a little fluffier, and that's exactly just about where I am right now. All right. There we go. So that's the creaming stage. The next part that we're going to do is we're going to add our flavors. So in here I have 2. I have the lemon extract, and then I also have our vanilla bean paste. So I put both of them in one bowl here. And the lemon is not to make this taste like a lemon cookie. It just gives like that little background flavor to it, which is really nice. Kind of freshens it up as opposed to actually tasting like a lemon cookie. And then for our eggs, I'm just gonna crack my egg. I always like to crack it into something else and then put it in. I'm gonna end up putting both of them in, but every once in a while, you end up with a freaky egg. So it's good to put it in something and then put it into your bowl rather than straight into your bowl. All right, back with my mixer for a minute, so it'll be loud again. And this I want to mix until it's all incorporated and nice and smooth. So see how it has really smoothed out. The eggs have made a big difference with that addition in there. All right, and it smells really good with the lemon and the vanilla. And the vanilla that we used was vanilla bean paste. So it's that really thick syrup of vanilla that's like, it kind of looks like a molasses kind of consistency and really thick. It has the little flecks of vanilla in there. And I love being able to see those in the cookie. You could actually make this no problem with just a vanilla extract. And so it would be the same amount where it's calling for 1.5 teaspoons of the vanilla bean paste. It would be the same amount of vanilla extract. All right, so now we have our cake flour that we're going to add in here and our milk. And so it's 1 cup of milk that goes in. What I want to do is I'm going to do the cake flour in thirds and the milk in halves. So I'm going to start with about 1/3 of the cake flour. No need to actually measure this out, just eyeball 1/3 of it. And I'm going to come back with my mixer. Mix until all the flour is incorporated. So this is just like making a cake, right? But it's just going to be a thicker consistency. All right, there we go. So all my flour is incorporated. Now I'm going to add half of my milk. And this is when you have to watch out for it splashing. Should have been wearing an apron, but didn't put one on. Did you notice that I'm wearing black and white? So I have black and white stripes for today. All right, there we go. And now I'm gonna add the other half of what's left of my flour. Mix this in. This just makes it so that the batter can actually absorb everything that you're adding, rather than just adding everything all at once. It's harder for it to all incorporate as evenly as if you add it in stages like this. All right, so there you go. You can see how thick this batter is. The rest of my milk. So milk in 2 stages, flour in 3. And this could definitely be done by hand. All of this could be done by hand. All right, and my milk is incorporated, so now it's the rest of the flour. And that's it. And Randy's gonna get me a sheet pan and a scoop. Yeah, I can use that sheet pan. Scoops are up here. All right, just mix until you don't see the white of the flour. You don't want to keep mixing too long because it can make the cookie less and less tender. So I don't see the whites of the flour anymore. There we go. All right. That is done and ready to go. Over here. All right, so I'm just using my spatula, just making sure that the beater had gotten all the way down. So just scrape down in, make sure you've gotten to all of it, and see how thick this is. So this is like, I would call it like halfway between like a cookie dough and a cake batter. So it's like part of the way between all of them. So then we're ready to go with this. So it smells delicious, ready to go. What we're gonna do is we're going to prep a sheet pan. So we're using the big one because we have the big ones, but just a regular size sheet pan at home is fine. But what you do want to do is you want to spray it with, or you want to line it with parchment paper, and then you want to spray it. And so let me just turn this around because that way you can see probably all of it. There we go. I think you can see all of it that way. So now I'm just going to spray this with some vegetable spray. And not a lot. I'm not going to have the cookies swimming in it, but I want enough so that it's going to help it not to stick. And then I find the easiest way to portion these is with scoops like this. We all have them, you know, find them in the back of your cupboard. You've used them for ice cream and other things. And they come in all different sizes. And so you can have all different size cookies, down from like the little tiny ones that would make cookies that are about this big to like this size that'll make cookies that are about this big. And so it just makes, it doesn't matter what size you make, but on each pan, you need to only have one size of cookie. Because if I put some little tiny ones on here too, they're just not going to bake at the same rate. And so the little tiny ones are going to bake much, much faster than these larger ones like this. I always loved black and white cookies when I was growing up. And I think part of it was because how big they are. So, you know, in Texas, we say, you know, everything's bigger in Texas. Not black and white cookies. Oh my gosh, like in New York, they're easily like 6 inches across. So like so big. And you know, you could go into the bakery and it would be like the same price, whether it was the big, huge, you know, black and white cookie or a small chocolate chip cookie. And so I would always choose the black and white cookie. Maybe because it was so big. So notice how I'm leaving a lot of space between. They will spread, and we're actually going to tap this down to kind of encourage them to start spreading. There we go. Out of this, about this size, you would end up getting about 24 cookies this size. And so that's going to be quite a few sheet pans, you know, on like a half sheet pan. It's going to take quite a few times in the oven. Or you can make a bunch of like smaller ones. And the smaller ones are nice because that way it's not like such a commitment to eat like a big, huge 6-inch cookie. All right, I'll put that to the side. Let me show you what we do for tapping these down. So this is going to be loud here for a second. I'm going to take this and see what it did. It flattened the cookies so that they're much flatter than the ones on this side. And so that way it kind of starts that process of them spreading. If you leave it up like this, they're not going to spread as easily. And so you want to kind of start that. You could always use like the back of a spoon or like use a spatula and kind of spread it out a little bit. That would be fine. But I find it easiest just to kind of tap it on the counter, get everyone's attention that way, and then be able to have it ready to go. So these go into the oven. They go into a preheated 350 degree oven, and they take about, it's going to depend on what size cookies you make. A size like this that is like maybe 5 inches across, this is going to end up taking about 10 minutes in our convection oven, which would end up being about 12 minutes in my oven at home. So like a regular standard conventional oven, it would end up being about 12 minutes. What you're looking for is for them to be just barely golden around the edges. So that's what you're looking for, and to have a little bit of a golden bottom. So that's exactly what we're looking for. You don't want it to be too dark around the edges. So watch them when they're baking. You don't want them to go too far. All right, Randy's gonna take this to the oven. I'm gonna put the induction burner here. Give us just a second to get reset. I'm seeing some comments here. If there are questions, Magda, let us know, or Randy, let us know. If there are questions, we'll get them answered.
Magda's been doing well answering questions.
All right. Yay, Magda. Glad to have you here. Yep. It needs to be. All right. So I made a recipe of glaze earlier, and the glaze that you use for this is a combination of corn syrup and water, powdered sugar, a little bit of vanilla extract, and then for the vanilla one, I like to add a little bit of whitener to it, because otherwise when you're making it, and you'll see I'm going to make a batch right now, when you're making it, it's going to be kind of opaque, and so you're not really going to see the white in it so much. So I've added a little bit of whitener in there, and that's where we are with this glaze. This has cooled off a bit, and so it's a nice consistency for this. You wouldn't want to use it just when it's so hot. So you want to make this while your cookies are baking or even before they go in, so that it can cool just a little bit, and that way you can tell the actual consistency of it. And so what we're looking for with this, those of you that have done cookie decorating with us before will know, like, what we do is we pick up the icing and then go around in the bowl, and then we count how long it takes for it to settle and to be smooth. With this, we want it to be like 3 to 4 seconds. So I pick up my icing, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's just right there. So this is perfect, just what I'm looking for. All right, I'm going to set this one aside so that we can use this for our white, and then I'll show you how to make black with it, and then let's make some so that we can make some other icing, and that way I can see whether it was just something that I did before, that maybe I just didn't measure my water and corn syrup correctly, and that's what made it so off. But I had to add like an additional like 1.5 cups of sugar to it to get to the right consistency. All right, so let's see. So I have 1/3 cup. Let me look. Yep, I have 1/3 cup of water. So that's gonna go in. And then I'll get 1/4 cup of corn syrup. So this is just regular, clear, like Cairo style corn syrup. This is what's going to keep the glaze nice and soft, as opposed to being like really crunchy, like royal icing. This is going to be a softer glaze, and the corn syrup is what helps make that happen. Scrape it out. All right, I'm gonna start heating this and bring this to a boil, and there we go. And while that's going, I'm gonna weigh out my powdered sugar. So it's 5 cups, 120 grams per cup, so that's 600 grams. Is my math right? My math is correct with that, right? 600 grams. Yeah, when recipes kind of don't go exactly like I think, my first thought is always not to blame the recipe, but to blame myself. You know, it's kind of like, all right, what did I not measure correctly? What did I not do? Because I know I have used this recipe before, but well, I don't know. We'll see. It looks like the same amount that I weighed out before. All right, if you buy your powdered sugar in like boxes, then you're gonna need to sift it. In a bag, it doesn't really have as many lumps in it, so I don't need to worry about sifting it. But you could, if you were buying it in the box or in a bag, if you wanted to make sure that you didn't have any lumps, then go ahead and sift this into another bowl. So while I'm waiting on this to boil, I'll go ahead and do that. Since I have another bowl here, I may as well make it nice and fluffy and light. There we go. So just hit against the strainer. You can always take a spatula and go into the strainer too. Or if you have like a sifter, you can use a sifter for that as well. I don't think I even own a sifter at home. But there's a lot of funny things that I don't own at home. Like, would you believe that I don't have a regular size rolling pin at home? I've used a wine bottle before.
Everybody has those these days.
Yeah, yeah. Lots of extra wine bottles around, right? All right, there we go. Last parts. So now what I'm gonna do, I'm just gonna add my vanilla, or my powdered sugar right in here. You can move it if you want. There we go. I'll take my whisk from before, and I'm just gonna whisk this together. This is looking much better. I must have done something wrong. All right, so you can follow the recipe because I don't know what I did wrong, but something, because this is much, much better. And once this cools off, it will be thicker than what it is right now, and that'll be perfect. That's what we're looking for. So let me wipe my hands off. I want to talk to you about the color so that you can see it, and then adding the whitener in here. So look at the color. See how it's not like really white all the way. In order to have it white, that's what this whitener is for. And this has titanium dioxide in it. Titanium dioxide is the same stuff that's in a lot of sunscreens, especially the ones that like you put on your nose to keep your nose from getting too much sun. And so it's used for that a lot. But I'm just gonna put just a little bit. So a little squirt in there. And then when I mix this up, look how much whiter this is. So now it will be black and white cookies. It won't be black and transparent cookies. You know, that's just not quite as pretty. All right, there we go. I'm gonna add my vanilla in here. I have a little bit of vanilla somewhere in a little bowl right here. Because you gotta have flavor in the icing. Can't be just plain. There we go. And then I'll just I think I'm gonna go ahead and make this whole one into the black one. So I can just turn this off. Randy will move the induction burner. And I'll go ahead and I'll add my 1/4 cup of cocoa. Did you grab a 1/4 cup measure? Or a 2 tablespoon, the 2 tablespoons that's up top there. That's good. All right. So this ingredient is called black cocoa. And this is, it truly is black. It's black because the beans are roasted for a long, long time. It's not because of any color additives or anything in there. The ingredients are quite simple in here. It's just cocoa. And so, but it gives a really good black color to this. You could use any regular cocoa, would be fine in here. You're just not going to end up with the black color without the black cocoa. But what you can do is you can add, just like we added whitener, you can add a little bit of black to it, and it will turn it into that black color. But mine is going to be really dark just because of the black cocoa in here. All right. There we go. See how dark that is? So definitely that black color. If I wanted it to be even a little bit more intense, I could go ahead and add a little bit of black gel color, but I don't think I need to do that. So I'm just gonna set this aside, hope it cools in just a minute, and then be able to ice our cookies with it. So when you're icing your cookies, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Very traditional in a bakery is to use a brush and just brush it on, because that's really fast and a quick way of doing it. You can put it into a piping bag, and that's kind of my preferred way to do it. You could use the bottles like what we use in our cookie decorating classes. There's lots of things that you can do with this. So I'll show you a couple of different ways. When you're working with this glaze, you want to either keep it in a pan like this or put it into a bowl that can go over like some simmering water, because you don't want it to totally cool off to the point where it's room temperature cold, because by that point you will have lost the icing, and it's not that. This is technically called a fondant kind of icing, and so you will have lost the ability to spread it, and so with this you want to work with it while it's still a little warm, not hot but a little warm. All right, let me grab some cookies. And remember, I told you we ice the back. So it's the back of it that gets iced, not the rounded part. I don't know why. All right, so with the brush, you can just brush it on. So that goes pretty well. I don't think it's quite as smooth as if you do it with a piping bag, but it's much, much faster. And so you can see in a bakery setting, if you're making a zillion of these, you would want to be able to do this very quickly. And it's not a ton of icing, so it's a pretty thin amount of icing that goes on there. I'm going to show you with it in a bag. So I'm just going to put some into my bag here. I probably could have added just a tiny bit less powdered sugar when I was going through it to thicken it. I thickened it a little bit too much, but it'll still taste delicious. All right, so I just cut a little tiny hole off of it. And with this, what you can do is I like to go around my middle, around the outside, and then just zigzag back and forth. And it will just settle into place. So that way it makes it a little bit more polished, a little more finished than using the brush with it. There we go. So across the middle, around the outside, and then just zigzag. No worries about that little extra vanilla in there, because the chocolate's gonna cover it right up. And this glaze actually sets pretty quickly, so quite a bit faster than like a regular royal icing, but it still takes a bit of time. I wouldn't stack these cookies on top of each other until like later tonight, maybe tomorrow would be the time that you would put them into bags, stack them on top of each other. They are edible right away, of course. They are edible right away. But see how it just smooths out so beautifully? All right. Nice. There's my 6. I'm gonna get some chocolate. We'll see if it's cooled enough. The worst thing is if it's not cooled enough, it may run off the side. And you know, there are worse things that can happen than icing running off the side of a cookie. So I'm okay with tempting fate and doing it right away. All right, let me grab another bag here. And so the chocolate has thickened quite a bit. There we go. My mouth is watering. Anyone else? You guys excited about eating some black and white cookies? Ooh, ooh, ooh. It's still hot. It's more than warm. I'll leave it in the bag here for a minute. We'll talk about something else and then I'll ice these cookies. Because right now this would burn my hand. All right. So like I said, you would want to keep this in either a pan like this that you can go back and forth onto the heat just a little bit, or put it into a bowl that you can put over a pot of simmering water, and that way you can go back and forth onto the heat if you need to. I'm just going to set this here for just a second, let that cool off, and then go from there. So these cookies, the best way to store them is just at room temperature, and they will stay fresh easily for a week. They will be absolutely fine. And so you've seen these cookies all over. Even if you haven't been to New York, you know, if you've watched Seinfeld, you've seen these cookies a lot on Seinfeld, or any show that really talks about New York, like standard foods or bakeries or delis. Black and white cookies are always the number one thing that are talked about with it. And it's just one of those things. I don't know where it originated. I was reading earlier this morning that they've been around for at least over 100 years. And they originated in a deli in Manhattan. And so whether that's true or not, or whether they're just laying claim to it, I don't know. But certainly definitely a New York standard when you're there. So a great thing. All right, so you can see my white glaze has already it's already set even to the touch. And so it does set very, very quickly, and that's why you have to be able to put the glaze back and forth onto the heat. And that's why even when I brought this over, I was stirring this, because what's on the surface had already started to kind of crust over. But as long as you keep it stirred and going, then you're good. Or what you can do, if you're going to be icing a bunch of them, go ahead and make several bags. And as long as the icing is in a bag, it's not going to crust over. It'll cool off, but it's not going to crust over. All right, let's see. It's still pretty hot, but we're going to tempt fate. Never done that before. All right, so I'm gonna go right along. Come on. Well, it had cooled off in the bottom there. Ooh, 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 ooh. This is so hot. This is burning my hand. All right, I'm gonna have to let it cool, or put a towel around it. You will let yours cool. I don't have that luxury of time. There we go. And see how I could have even thinned out my chocolate icing just a little bit more? because once you add the cocoa, it ends up thickening it up just a little bit. So it's not quite as smooth as the vanilla side, but it's still pretty smooth. But since it's a little thicker, you're gonna get a little bit more chocolate icing than the vanilla icing. So that's always a good thing. This black cocoa is just delicious. It's like such a rich chocolate flavor to things. And so it's really nice. You can use this. I know a lot of cake decorators that use this for coloring their buttercream icing or coloring their royal icing. If they don't mind that it has like a chocolate flavor to it, then lots of times people will use the chocolate, the black cocoa to be able to color and be able to get this black look, and then be able to have a much more natural way of having that black look as opposed to adding the black color to it. All right, I'm gonna keep going here, finish this one. It's hot and thick. There we go. All right, I'm gonna thin out my black icing for the rest of them, and because I still have a whole tray plus another tray of cookies to ice, so I have more to go with this. But you can see even the black one has already set, like the first ones that I did. So it sets very, very quickly. So I'm gonna lift up, talk about these a little bit more, probably eat one. All right, guys, thank you so much for joining us for Black and White Cookies. This was really fun. This was kind of a walk down memory lane for me to make and soon eat these cookies, and to be able to share them with you. It makes it even more fun. We have tons of other recipes that are on our website. So look at our website. It's makeitsweet.com. Go to our recipes section. There's some really fun ones out there. And so check them out and know that they are they're recipes that we've used before, and like the tried and true kind of version. So go ahead and try out any of those. On Friday is going to be English muffins. It's one of my favorite classes. Have you ever had, they're called Wolferman's English muffins. It was really, really popular in like the late 80s, early 90s. It was like a mail order English muffin place. And so they had these gourmet English muffins that were delivered, and they were like truly like 2 inches thick. And my mom and dad had gotten them for me for Christmas, and I was like, that was it. There was no going back to eating like regular Bay's English muffins or what's the other one, like Entenmann's, or any of the other English muffins. And so that's what I was working on for these English muffins. They're nice and thick, and they have those nooks and crannies, and then we'll make some different flavors with them as well. So we'll put that recipe up online. It does have some things like dried milk powder, and I'll walk through how you can make substitutions and things that you can change on this recipe, so you don't have to use all the specialty kind of things that are in there. So we'll walk through all of that and then go from there. So that is it for Black and White Cookies today. And then English muffins on Friday. We'll do the cupcakes on Wednesday next week, and then I'll figure out something else for Monday and Friday. So be looking at our website, makeitsweet.com, and you can find out what we've come up with for next week. We really appreciate you joining in, and the people that share it, the people that comment. Thank you so much. We really appreciate it. We've been able to grow our viewership through this, and even during these times, to be able to do this. And so in the back of my mind, I'm thinking about how to continue a lot of these things, because not everyone can be in Austin, Texas, and we may have to be rethinking how we're going to be doing things for the future. So we're working on some things with that. So In the meantime, if you did have a class that was scheduled, look on our website, and the dates for through, I think it's May 8th or so, are already rescheduled, and we have alternate dates on there. And then any ones that need to be done subsequently will have that. So if you're on that alternate date and you're signed up for a class, if it works for you, that's great. And we're sending out just emails to let you know that you're already in the other class. If it doesn't work for you, just let us know. We will we'll definitely get you transferred to another class, or get you rescheduled to something else, or hold on to a credit, or in worst case, if you need a refund, you need a refund. And so we would be able to handle that from there. And then I want to thank people for shopping with us. So thank you so much for coming in the store. It's so fun to see people that are coming in, and people talk about the projects that they have going on and the things that they're doing, and baking with the kids and making it fun. And that's just always so great and rewarding, no matter when it is, but especially now, to be able to have that great feeling of accomplishment that comes from baking and decorating together as a family. So thanks for doing that. Thanks for sharing the things that you're working on and letting us know. And so if you do want to post pictures of what you are working on, post them in the comments section, or make a post on our website. I start every class and say that I love to see what it is that people are making. So please do that. Would love to see, and go from there. So we're open Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 to noon. We're going to be looking at hours for next week and see if we need to expand a little bit, and go from there. But it'll still just be the Monday, Wednesday, Friday for right now. And then as we're going into times where we can ease up on retail and things, we'll be looking to expand hours and going from there. If you have an order that you'd like to place, you can just email us. So mail@makeitsweet.com, and that will get right to us, and just describe whatever it is that you're looking for. Be sure to include your phone number on there, and that way we'll be able to get in touch with you and be able to make sure that we have everything that you're looking for. If you need cake flour for making black and white cookies, we've got it, and we have black cocoa too, and then you'd have some black cocoa also to be able to make the black cocoa cookies. So fun for decorating on the black cocoa cookies. So thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy your black and white cookies. I know I'm going to enjoy mine, and then enjoy making them, enjoy eating them, and sharing them. All right, thanks. Take care. Bye-bye.